I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. And we sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman, because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
With your fist raised in the sky. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Political Spotlight, episode 559. We're chugging right along here, ladies and gentlemen. Chugging right along. Let me do a couple of things here to get prepared. We're ready, ladies and gentlemen. We've got an action-packed show for you. And you know, I didn't realize this. I didn't realize this until just a few moments ago. The problem with what we're going to be talking about tonight is see, the focus of my show generally is politics. And in the political world for the last 25 years, definitely the last 10, but I would say 25 to 30, we've started getting this thing where people can't argue and debate and agree to disagree and agree that this is how I feel, this is what I'm basing my information on. That's how you feel. That's what you're basing your information on. Whatever. That's not what happens. Now it's, I'm right, you're wrong. I've got to argue to the death, and that's what it's going to be. That's not what's going on in the situation, the incident, the subject of tonight's show. Tonight's show, I think, along with a whole bunch of people running around wanting to be these weirdo social justice warriors, a lot of liberal-minded freaks wanting to, ban guns and do a whole bunch of weirdness carrying on, Besides all of that, everybody running around trying to make it a racial situation and all that. That's what's wrong with what's happening. But there is a large portion of people that don't understand that two or more things can be correct and happening at the same time. And they can be counter to each other. They can be opposites. And they can be going on and everything can be happening at the same time, and it can all share existence in the same world. And it can all be happening, and it doesn't make one right or wrong, or it doesn't mean because A is happening over here, it doesn't mean B can't be happening over there. A can be happening here, B can be happening there. They can be happening at the same time, and A and B can almost seem like they cross each other out, but they don't. They're just happening to both be happening at the same time, in the same sphere, in the same area, sharing the same space. And it is possible. So that is important for people to understand. And I don't know. Yeah, the prosecutor's up for election. All prosecutors in the state of Indiana are up for election in next year. Next year, the Boone County prosecutor, nope, that's his brother, not Clint Eastwood, but Kent Eastwood, the less cool, shorter, plumper, way younger brother of Clint Eastwood, his brother Kent Eastwood. There are a couple I don't think that do, Catherine, but but Clint, I got to stop saying that. We're just going to call him Eastwood, Prosecutor Eastwood, okay? We're going to not try to say, why would his parents have done that to him? He's like way younger. So like when they named him Kent Eastwood, they knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. Anyways, we'll just call him Prosecutor Eastwood. But yes, he is up for re-election. Give me 1 second here. I keep getting confused. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, here we are. I'm almost done here. I've got to get this. I've got to continue getting this shared here. Give me just 1 second here, and we'll be done with this. I got to get this done. I was arguing with people right before the show started instead of doing my job. It's town chatter. I'm not going to put it in there. I don't care if those people hear it or not. They don't care. No, I'm kidding. We'll let them hear it. They're cool. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, we're done with that. That's enough. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, obviously, if you've not gathered, what we're going to be talking about tonight is we're going to be talking about the once again, we're going to be talking about the shooting situation, the shooting incident, the shootings investigation in Whitestown in Boone County. And that's because the Boone County Prosecutor's Office released their statements today, and all their information, the information that they could release. We were there, and we had the information. We covered the information for you, brought the information to you. Of course, the information that we have provided to you, in case you haven't followed along, is a determination was made in this case. So for those that might have just wandered in from a vacation where they had no internet, we're talking about the shooting death that occurred in the early morning hours of Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. A man and a woman, Spanish-speaking, Hispanic. They're from Guatemala. They work for a cleaning company. And the cleaning company was hired, as was reported here on this program. the cleaning company, like A&A something or whatever, I don't care what their cleaning company was called. It was hired by Ryan Holmes to clean a model spec house, basically. And they were going there to clean the house in the early morning hours before 7 a.m. on Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. That's just the couple days after the time change occurred in Indiana. So it was dark in the morning, and they, instead of arriving at the spec house, the model house, which was in a totally different neighborhood, mind you, they arrived at a home that had been occupied for over 4 years by a man and a woman. And when they arrived on the location, they, by the interview from, and we will go through this, by the interview from the husband of the woman, tried to make entry with the door, in the door. No matter what anyone tells you, he has stated that they tried to use the key or something to get in. Now, they didn't kick the door. They didn't break the door. They had no ill intent. It was a horrible, horrible mix-up. They just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And whatever happened at that point, the homeowners inside, who were asleep and had only been asleep for a couple, 2 or 3 hours, woke up on the upstairs, in their upstairs loft, and heard noise, what they claim is noise, coming to the from the downstairs door, and he wakes up. A man who, for whatever reason, had been worried apparently about home invasion, had looked up videos about home invasion. By his own testimony, had owned two guns, a Sig Sauer, which he sold, and then he bought a Glock 48, which is a model Glock 48. It is a slimline Glock, and it is a 9mm, and it holds 10 rounds. So it's not one of these scary assault rifles or assault guns that's spitting out. He doesn't have a switch on it, and it's just spewing bullets out the end of the gun. It holds 10 9mm bullets. And mind you, the man has the gun locked away in a Pelican safe with not one, but 2 locks on the Pelican safe, and keeps the gun locked, disassembled. He stated that he had to, now in the interview, he states that he had to assemble the gun. I'm not meaning like he's not got it like field stripped. He essentially had a magazine in one location in the box, and he had the gun in another location, and he had to pick the gun up and insert the magazine like such to be able to use the gun. So it's not like it was like, he's not me. He's not dealing with guns at his feet and guns at the ready and guns up, in the under the shower, and guns in the kitchen, and guns on the toilet, and guns under the TV. This was not Rambo. Okay. And so he hears this noise, and he thinks, oh shit, it's happening. And so he has a room in his house that he calls the quote unquote safe room. I don't know what created this. Now, what if I'm going to try to stick away from the what ifs, because there's nothing, they didn't specify that in their interview with the police. The police and the prosecutor's office are not claiming that. The guy is not claiming that. Now, that might be a defense at a later date. I don't know. But that's not being said at this point. So that's where we are. We have heard a 911. Excuse me. I keep calling it 911. That's not, I changed the name on the video to make it better. It is not 911 tape. It wasn't the, hello, this is, boop, 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 911, what's your emergency? It wasn't that. We heard police dispatch traffic. That's what they call the recording between dispatch and police and fire and EMS, the traffic on the dispatch. We heard an edited tape. We heard an edited tape. And I say it's edited because it was a 2-minute and 33 or 35 second tape. And we know that at least the tape was at least 5 minutes long, if not 8 to 10 minutes long. And the police were there all afternoon, all morning and afternoon. So there could be hours of audio, okay, eventually. So we heard that, and it added all kinds of new things into the mix. And I said, we need to be careful, and we need to go by what we will eventually find out. Sooner or later, the information will come out. Now, I will be very clear, as you guys know, if you've been watching this for any length of time, if you've been watching over the last couple of days, I felt as though this was a tragic, horrible accident. And however dumb the man's actions may or may not be to you or to me, someone that handles guns and has a high proficiency with guns and an understanding of, guns and when and when not to do things. None of us were there. None of us witnessed what they were witnessing or dealing with what they were dealing with on either side of the door. And I felt that this man should not be charged. And I've said that every time I've talked about this. I stated that I wanted the law to be followed accordingly. And I felt as if the prosecutor, depending on the facts that we knew at the time, if there wasn't something like glaringly crazy in the evidence, would be justified in filing no charges against this. Okay. So we go to the prosecutor's press conference today, and the prosecutor speaks to the audience, and I'm going to play that for you because it's just a very short period. The entire press conference lasted about 13 minutes. We're not going to listen to all 13 minutes of it. We're just going to listen to the very first few minutes where the prosecutor gives his statement, and then we're going to go from there. Okay. So I am going to say the prosecutor's office did determine to file one single count of voluntary manslaughter against this man. The man has now been identified as Curt D. Andersen. That's the same name that I've known since a couple days after the shooting. That's the name that I've heard was the homeowner. That's the name that I found through online records, being the homeowner, Curt D. Andersen, and that is what that is. So the prosecutor's office filed one single count of voluntary manslaughter against the man, and he was arrested on warrant. He was arrested on a warrant today, prior to us going into the event, and he was arrested without incident. So, like, he didn't fight them, he didn't cause any big scene, he wasn't terrorizing them. I would assume that he went into custody calmly. Okay, so let me stand by here. I'm gonna put this forward. Okay, give me a second here. I've got too many mice. Stand by. Okay, stand by. All right, I want to put this forward here and show you guys. I'm sure you've seen this, but I just want to make sure that you guys are. For those that maybe have not, this is the suspect, 62-year-old Curt D. Andersen. Spelling is Andersen, so not the common spelling of Andersen, uncommon spelling, I would say. And he was arrested, as you can see here. I don't know if you can see how you can see here. November 17th, 2025. He currently has no bail. He's under no bail, no bond, which is common until the initial hearing. Now, when he goes before the judge, he was arrested today, and they've filed the charges, so he will go before the judge. He will have an initial hearing. If not tomorrow, he'll have one on Wednesday, and they can set bail there. I don't look for this man to remain in jail. They will give him a bail. This is not murder, so he will get bail. And I don't know what his financial situation is. I don't know if the attorney's working on something. He does have counsel. He hired Guy Relford, a highly decorated, respected civil rights attorney, Second Amendment attorney, and right here in Indiana. Radio personality and Second Amendment trainer, instructor, all around good guy, a friend of mine, and he's been on the show before, and so he's a good guy, but that's who's representing this man. I did ask a question today at the press conference, and Eastwood kind of fumbled on a little bit. He was like, I don't know that I can answer it. But then he went ahead and answered it, because the question I asked was almost instantly. First of all, Curt was not arrested at the scene. So that right there lets you know that the police on scene, they are like, wait a minute, we don't know what's happening here. So, that's interesting. And then the prosecutor's office, which they would have been talking to, didn't say that he should be arrested. So that's interesting. Then immediately he hires Guy Relford, and that's interesting there. I asked the prosecutor if that meant, because sometimes when a defendant or a suspect hires an attorney, they shut it down and there's no cooperation with the police. Or sometimes the attorney says, yes, we'll cooperate to such and such a degree. The question I asked was, I know that he hired Relford. Did that mean that his cooperation ended the minute that he hired Relford, or did they still cooperate? Because that would be telling, okay? Like, did this guy immediately get an attorney, clam up, and shut up? Because a lot of people said, oh, he got an attorney, that's bad. No. That's good. You want to get an attorney. As a former police officer, if the police showed up at my door today, I know where I was all day today. I was in Boone County and driving back from Boone County. If the police showed up at my door and told me that I'm suspected of a crime that occurred in Winchester, well, I knew I wasn't in Winchester today, so I know that's all full of shit. I'm not involved, but I'm not just going to hurry down to the station to talk to them. I'm going to say, no, excuse me. I will cooperate with you as soon as I have my attorney with me. And so that is a smart practice. But that doesn't mean that someone's guilty. It just means someone is aware of their rights. But the prosecutor said that they still cooperated. He still cooperated to answer. And I apologize because I'm not looking at the comments. And if there's anything amazing, Kate, put them in, star them for me, because I will go back and get them. And once we get to the flip side of this video, I will be looking and talking and interacting with you guys. But before we get there, I don't want to get thrown off track. So I'm purposefully not looking at them. But I did see one that went by, and I want to answer. Stumblefoot said, why are you so sure of his innocence? And I'm not so sure. I'm not specifically here's the it's not that. So saying, why are you so sure of his innocence, would presume that I feel like he needs to be charged. And so it's a guilty versus innocent. I am stating that I don't feel that charges should have been filed, because the problem here is this is a situation where, in a lot of situations, you have problems separating fact and emotion. Fact and emotion are hard to separate, but some are easier than others. This is a very hard case to separate fact and emotion, and specifically a hard situation to divide the law and what we deem as moral. What we deem as acceptable or whatnot. And I have said, and I will continue saying this, in my opinion, if this man can show that he was in fear that these people were breaking into his house, if he was in fear of that, and if that fear was legitimate, then sadly, the shooting is okay. It sucks. I wouldn't have done it. Okay. But I'm not this man. Okay. And for everybody out here saying he had no reasonable fear, just because he was charged today does not mean you can say that. No one has an understanding of what this man's fear was or was not. And for someone to say he had no reasonable fear, that's ludicrous that someone can say that, because what first of all, for anybody, and not everybody's seen or read this document. We're going to go through this. We're going to go through the document. It's an 18-page document. Okay. But I don't see anything in this probable cause affidavit that alleviates the fear. I don't see anything here that alleviates the fear. Okay, so I want to be clear there. I've always said that if this man was in fear, and it's very simple. I can break it down like this, and I'll say it like this. We'll say it. We will see. Yes, reasonable. However long you stretch the word reasonable out, or however many times you put it in parentheses, or however often someone says it. Yes, reasonable. That's what I'm talking about. If he was in fear, for whatever reason that he was in fear, for the actions, whatever was going on, if he can state that he was reasonably in fear for his life because they were going to break in, then he has the ability to defend himself. And the other thing I want to say here really quickly is everybody's talking about what he did was so unreasonable. You know, a lot of times, and I said this to somebody the other day, a lot of times when police officers are involved in an officer-involved shootings, people who are trained with weapons and shoot and qualify and all of this stuff, after the shooting, when they're interviewing the police officer after they've taken the weapons and all of that, they'll ask the officers, how many times did you fire your weapon? And the officers frequently will say, I did a double tap, pop, 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 pop. Or they'll say, you know, I shot 2 triples, pop, 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 pop. And they will then say, well, the investigator will say, well, would you be surprised to know that you did a mag dump, that you emptied your magazine? And a lot of times the officers will say, there's no way I did that. There's no way I did that. Because in the moment, you know, it's fight or flight, and you're going into muscle memory, and, you know, it whatever. And then you can't remember even 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours later. You're like, oh, I just shot 2 or 3 times. I shot 6 times. And they're like, no, you emptied your 17 round magazine, and you loaded a second magazine, and you'd shot 2 or 3 rounds through that. This man did not shoot wildly. He did not spray bullets everywhere. He did not shoot 4, 5, 6 rounds. He shot 1 bullet from his gun, and then he quit. And however gruesome it is, and I'm sorry to have to say this because it is a sad tragedy, his projectile that left the gun hit the target. It hit the target. So it wasn't like there, you know, he didn't hit the house behind him because he fired willy-nilly just 3, 5, 6, 10. He didn't mag dump and shoot, you know, through the house behind him. He shot through the door. It hit the person. Now, sadly, you know, it was a horrible tragedy, but, you know, for everybody talking about how unreasonable he was, I see a lot of what he did as reasonable. You know, he wasn't a man that had a gun laying in wait. He had to put the gun together. After he did that, he put the gun down. He didn't continue holding the gun, even when he was afraid to exit the house, and he was still talking to the police back and forth. It wasn't like he was walking around with the gun. The officers' lives weren't in danger. He had put the gun down, and not only did he put it down, but firing 1 round puts the gun back in battery and you're ready to fire again. He jacked the rack back, stuck it back, and locked it back in the back position. So the gun was not even like in a position like it would be easy to make it fireable again. But I'm just saying he didn't seem unreasonable to me. Now, I think that he was highly emotional, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But that's that. Okay, let's I want to play this video here for you, and we'll listen to just the very first part of what the prosecutor has to say here, and then I'm going to show you the probable cause affidavit, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about some of my concerns, and we're going to move forward from there. Okay? So here's this.
Thank you to everyone for coming. My name is Kent Eastwood. I'm the Boone County Prosecutor. I have a prepared written statement, which I'm going to read. When I'm finished, I will take brief but limited in scope questions. First, I want to begin by expressing my deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Maria Florinda Rios Perez de Velazquez. This is a tragedy for everyone involved, and our hearts and prayers are with her family as they navigate this difficult time. I also want to thank the Whitestown Police Department for their outstanding work. Their investigation has been thorough and professional. Their continued cooperation and teamwork with the Boone County Prosecutor's Office has been invaluable as we move forward in this case. As prosecutors, we have a solemn responsibility. We cannot allow emotion to guide our decisions. Our duty is to examine the facts, apply the law fairly and equally, and ensure that justice is served without bias or influence.
Now, I do want to say, I was taken aback when he said this, because there were some media folks that were in line with me, cameramen, and there were some personalities that were there as well that were, and I'm talking about for the big channels, Wish TV, WTHR, all of these channels were there, some national, and there were some who were like making cracks at this comment. And I was very taken aback about these quote unquote journalists who were, they weren't on air at the time, but it was very interesting to hear, like they were scoffing when he was talking about being unbiased and things like that. And I just thought that was very, very strange.
That is the only way the law can truly be just. Cases of this nature require a meticulous review of every detail and every piece of evidence. After a comprehensive examination, the Boone County Prosecutor's Office has filed one count, that count being voluntary manslaughter, which is to knowingly kill while acting under sudden heat as a level 2 felony. This has been charged against Curt Andersen of Whitestown, Indiana. At the conclusion of this press conference, copies of the charging information and the probable cause affidavit will be made available to you once it is unsealed by the court. It is vitally important for the citizens.
Yeah, the silver linings. It was the organizations that you're talking about. Their comments come later come later. It was definitely the cameraman. I mean, these are people that I like. I don't know them personally, but I've seen them through other things. Men and women who were kind of doing some stuff. The organizations, and we'll talk about that in a moment too. But yeah, this was kind of a wild deal.
Of Boone County to understand that our decision today in no way should be interpreted as a challenge to Indiana stand your ground law or a person's right to self-defense. We respect those laws, believe in those laws, and will uphold those laws. Based upon the particular evidence and circumstances of this case, we have determined that Curt Andersen's actions do not fall within the legal protections provided by the Indiana Stand Your Ground law. This case is not about undermining the law, it's about applying the law to the facts of this case, and that is what we intend to prove at trial. Curt Andersen remains presumed innocent, and until the state proves his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. This presumption of innocence is a cornerstone of our justice system and a principle that lies at the heart of a fair and just legal system. Finally, I need to address one critical point. During the pendency of this investigation, social media has circulated false and misleading information. This must stop immediately. It does not help the process. It does not help this case. It undermines the integrity of the judicial process. It spreads confusion, and it harms both the victim's family and the accused's right to a fair trial. One particular harmful claim was that this crime was committed by a police officer. That is categorical.
I didn't understand this from day one. People were saying, "Oh, the reason he's not arrested is because he's a police officer. He's a police officer on the Whitestown police officer. He's in Lebanon police officer. He's a Boone County sheriff's deputy." This man is not a police officer, was not a police officer, is not related to a police officer, like in near relation. Had nothing to do with law enforcement. This was just a man. And this was something that was being said everywhere. And it's just insane. It's crazy to just speak things that you're just pulling out of your ass because you want it to be true. You hope it's true. It's crazy to me to do that.
Perfectly and absolutely false. Curt Andersen has no affiliation with any local police department. To our knowledge, he has never been a police officer, and there's no evidence of any connection to a law enforcement agency or personnel in Boone County. By spreading these falsehoods, you are undermining everything we work for every single day to ensure and defend in our system. Stop sharing rumors. Stop posting misleading narratives. Rely on official sources for accurate information. Justice cannot exist without the truth. At this time, I am prepared to take questions as both one thing I want to make sure everyone understands. As both an attorney and as a prosecutor, I am bound by the Indiana rules of professional conduct. In particular, Rule 3.6 and 3.8.
On the internet.
3.6 applies to all attorneys, and 3.8 applies to prosecutors in particular. These rules impose obligations to respect these rules and protect the integrity of this case moving forward. I will not discuss the facts, case strategy, or anything speculative in nature. I'm happy to answer questions about the process going forward and to related matters. And so with that, I'm going to remind you, when this is over, I will have copies of this written statement for the press. I'll have copies of the probable cause affidavit, and I'll have copies of the charging information. With that, I can answer your questions, but remember, very limited in scope about what I'm allowed to talk about. He's currently at the Boone County Jail. He's been booked in. The defendant, the court will then set the initial hearing date. At the latest, it'll be Friday. He's currently being held on no bond hold. At his initial hearing, the judge will set a bond pursuant to local rules.
About 12 days.
Okay, so that's that. The questions, they were pretty good questions. It was pretty generic questions. He's not going to be able to get into a lot of information. We joke about that at some point. So then the other aspect of this that really got me was when he released that the man was being the man had been charged with voluntary manslaughter. There were several people there in attendance that apparently represent organizations like nonprofits and other social justice-y type groups who were just absolutely just enraged that they haven't already taken this man out, flogged him, beat him, cornered him, drawn and quartered him, that they have not shot him, they've not hung him, that we've not put him in the gas chamber. They are just enraged. One of the ladies said that she didn't want to live in America anymore, that this man is being treated this way because he's white. And, look, other than the fact that the man was white, the victim was from Guatemala, and it's 2025, there was no racial aspect to this. The only thing racial that I have seen throughout all of the crap that I've been looking into, all of the people that I've talked to, the only racial aspect of this is the people who are attempting to get their 15 minutes of fame by attaching themselves to the family of the victim. And they are doing so under the guise of, oh, we're going to help you. But then they're not doing things to help. They're doing things to get their face in front of the camera. The family was not here. The family was not putting out a statement on this at this time. But there are these couple of goofy girls that were here, and they're like, "Oh well, I'll be in front of the camera. I'll talk to whoever wants to talk to me." And like one of them was like looking at me, and I was like, "I'm not. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to talk to you about like wait, aren't." And what was really amazing is a couple of them were like white. And these people were like, I was like, wait a minute, like I'm confused. You're white. So like, look, I get the people that were there that are Hispanic that maybe are saying things, but you're more inflamed than the Hispanic person is. So like, slow your roll. Now, I want to say this, and I have to say it, because it's been discussed, and I feel like it needs to be discussed. I mean, there's a level of the conversation here. I've heard from a couple of different sources that there is a high likelihood that the husband of the victim could be here illegally. I have asked, now, look, in a horrible situation, it has no bearing other than to say, and I'm going to get a lot of hate on this, it is what it is. If it turns out that these people were here illegally, it's just sad to think about the fact that if they had been in Guatemala, she wouldn't have been on that doorstep. And maybe that's bad for me to say that. I don't know. But it's in my brain. It sucks. This is a tragedy all around. I hate this for her children. I hate this for her husband. It sucks. I mean, I hate it for them. That's the other thing that's happening here. Everyone's trying to make them the bad guys. And I'm like, no, they're not bad guys. They were there to clean. They were there to do a hard day's work. It was just a very unfortunate series of accidents that led them to that address. It doesn't make it justified. No, I'm not saying that makes it justified. No. The only thing that would look, I'm not even talking about what makes or doesn't make this justified. It's not what makes this justified. It's what makes this an act of self-defense or not. And that only thing that matters there is what was going on that caused the homeowner, Curt Andersen, to feel threatened. Okay. That's the only thing I'm saying there. And the only reason, you're right, ICE doesn't kill people who are illegal, and I'm not stating that. I'm just saying, if they were in Guatemala, they wouldn't have been on that doorstep. I don't know. And here's the deal. Maybe they were here legally, and that's fine. Whatever, I'm just saying. I also, it's really hard because, people maybe who are not believers don't understand this as much. But I also believe that however tragic situations are and things that we don't understand, we can't question. Like, I fully trust in God's will and God's plan. And I don't know why this would have been God's plan, but I believe that it was, or else it would not have happened. So that's the other aspect of that. Okay, now I want to take a look here at the probable cause, because I think that that's very important for people to understand, because there are things in this probable cause, in my opinion, that make what I'm saying right and makes me question what the prosecutor did here. Listen, I'm going to just straight out say it. I fully believe that the prosecutor caved to external pressures to charge this man with something. We got to charge him with something. We can't let him go. We got to charge him with something. And so I feel as if that's what's happened here. So let me take you here. Share that tab instead. Okay, I'm going to blow this up here so you guys can see it. So this document is 19 pages. Okay, it was. I don't know if you're being serious or you're not being serious. Like I feel like you're. I hope that's true. I feel like that's true. Even when we've disagreed, like I've always respected you, and I feel that you've done the same. So I think that that's serious. It's hard to read intent because it's like, I appreciate you. Who are you? No, but I I appreciate that. Okay. So let's take a look at this here. So this, I know I was just giving you a hard time, and I appreciate you being here, and I understand that I'm saying shit that definitely doesn't jive with necessarily your outlook or your worldview on some of these things, and I appreciate your point of view as well. I appreciate everybody here, whether we agree or you disagree, because that's what I always say. Look, here's the thing. You can like me and totally hate what I'm saying now. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me. You can agree with parts of what I'm saying, disagree with parts of what I'm saying. That's the beauty of this thing. Don't kill me for my thoughts, and I won't kill you for yours. Okay? So the first 2 pages here, I'm not going to spend any time on, because it's just his prepared statement that he read, partial of that. So I'm not going to spend, I'm not going to any time looking at this. If you want to look at this, you can find this all over my social media. It's on Facebook. It's on Bilbrey. It's on Kristopher H. Bilbrey Facebook page. It's on the Political Spotlight Facebook page, and it's on Bilbrey Live's Twitter. So you can find this everywhere if you want to read this full thing by yourself. Okay, so that's that. Okay, here, ladies and gentlemen, is the affidavit for probable cause, and this is 15 pages. Okay. So here it's basically given the some background on the police officer, Detective Kristopher Fisher. He's been a police officer in Whitestown since 2018. He's been a police officer in Indiana since 2007. So this guy is not he's not John Sproles. He's not an FNG. He's been around the block. He understands what's going on. I'm filing this affidavit for probable cause in support of the charge of 1 count of voluntary manslaughter, a level 2 felony on Curt D. Andersen. You can see the spelling there. Now, I'm going to pull this Indiana code out, and I want to pop over here, and I just want to briefly take a look. We went over this the other day, but I want to briefly look at this again, just so you all have the actual understanding of what this charge is. So, as you see it there on your screen, filing this affidavit of 1 count of voluntary manslaughter, level 2 felony. It's Indiana Code 354213 on Curt D. Andersen. Okay, that's there. Indiana Code 354213 is voluntary manslaughter. A person who knowingly or intentionally kills another human being, or is, except as provided in section 6.5 of this chapter, kills a fetus, that's not happened, while acting under sudden heat, commits voluntary manslaughter, a level 2 felony. So the issue here is a lot of people are asking what sudden heat is, the definition of sudden heat, and we will in a definition. Of sudden heat, and we'll take a look at that. So the Indiana law, sudden heat is a mitigating factor in various cases in and around the homicide cases, defined as an intense and temporary emotional disturbance, such as anger, rage, resentment, or terror. Now, I don't know where Silver Linings is, if Silver Linings is here, and the people who are saying, well, how do we know if this guy was, I was talking to Megan earlier today about him being emotional, and he was emotional in the interview. You're going to hear that here in a minute. You're going to see it from the page. Listen, I'm stating that this man was emotional at the scene. And for those of you that say, well, wait a minute, what are you basing that off of? Do you have any proof of that? And I will tell you, I'm going to tell you where my bias is. And I'm going to say this is my bias coming into it. I don't specifically have proof of this man being emotional at the scene, but I do have background, training, and experience different than a good chunk of you all, because I am a former police officer and I have been to scenes like this. I've been to scenes that have been crazy, that people have acted and in all kinds of ways. And I'm telling you, believe me or not, you don't have to take my word for it. It will come out that while all of this was going on, this man was emotional. And so by the Indiana code, by Indiana law, the definition of sudden heat is defined as intense and temporary emotional disturbance, such as anger. Was he angry? I don't think he was angry. I think he was fearful. Rage, I don't think he had rage. Resentment, I don't think he resented. Or terror that is sufficient to obscure the reason of an ordinary person and prevent the deliberation or premeditation. Okay? And I want to go back here and see. I was one of those people. Sudden heat sounded. Brad, that's hilarious. Okay. So moving on down here, initial investigation. Okay. And so basically we just get some of the things that we've already known. This occurred in Boone County, November 5th, 2025, 6:50 a.m., Whitestown Metropolitan Police Department. Officers were dispatched to the house for a possible residential burglary in progress. Now, burglary is breaking and entering of a dwelling to commit a felony. There is also a lesser version of that called residential entry, which is the breaking or entering of a dwelling. And that's it. Not to commit a felony. Like if I commit burglary to your house to steal your TV, that's burglary because theft is a felony. If I break and enter your home to rape you, that is a felony. If I break and enter your home because I'm homeless and I just want to sit in your foyer because it's 15 below zero tonight, and I do it quietly and I don't wake you up, and I fall asleep on your foyer and you wake up and find me there and you call the police, I'm going to go to jail. I didn't break in there for any ill intent. I just broke in there because I was trying to survive. But and that's a whole nother argument for another day. But that's technically residential entry. So we don't know what, at this time, they probably put it out as a burglary call. That's a dispatch deal. Prosecutor's office would have had to determine that. As we know now, there was no intent for felony or whatever. And they had not. And the other thing is, people hear breaking and entering, and they assume that it means you have to bust the door in, you have to break a window. The breaking and entering means breaking the threshold. You can commit burglary if I put up a frame of a house and I have a frame up with no windows or doors, and I have my tools inside on the pad, and you walk across without breaking anything, but you break the threshold to steal the tool, you've still committed burglary because you've broken the threshold. So it doesn't mean breaking. It means walking across that line, the line that you know that you should not be. Why isn't anyone charged with burglary or home invasion? I don't know what you mean there. Why isn't anyone charged? Why isn't anyone where? Because they weren't trying to do that here. This is just what the dispatch said. See, this is the other thing people need to understand. There's dispatcher talk, who's talking to people in the public. There's police talk. There's prosecutor talk. There's judge and courtroom talk and jury talk. And they're all a little bit different. So what the public says and what the dispatchers say is like the bottom level. What the police say is here, the prosecutors say is here, and the court's up here. So it stacks upon itself. So, you know, when the homeowner or the dispatch says burglary, that's what they're saying to get the police there, to call for the police to show up there. That might not be there at the time. And we find out that wasn't the case here. A sergeant and an officer arrived at the address and observed a large pool of blood on the front porch of the residence by the time the police had got there. Keep in mind, this was going on before the police got there. So they saw blood on the front porch, a bullet hole in the front door of the residence, and a male, later identified as Velazquez, kneeling down holding a female, later identified as Maria, by the front door of the residence. Observed Maria, who appeared to be deceased from a gunshot wound. After that, started relaying all the information to other law enforcement officers, began arriving at the residence. Homeowner Curt Andersen initially refused to exit his home upon law enforcement request. And we've heard parts of that from dispatch, because he stated at first he didn't see the police officers. He only saw the people out on the porch. He was afraid of that. And it took him a while to find that police officers were there. I don't think that he was resisting, and they didn't charge him with resisting. So, you know, clearly, and it seems like the police officer was hoping to try to get that here, but the prosecutor's office just charged him with the one count. Okay, because they mentioned it several times. They initially refused to exit. As a result of safety, first responders and civilians, the husband was instructed to move Maria to a safer location toward the street behind their van. The sergeant stated the homeowners didn't comply for some time, but eventually were convinced to exit the residence from the back door and were detained by law enforcement officers. Whitestown medics responded to the scene, attended to Maria. Medics were unable to successfully render life-saving measures, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. Later, an autopsy was performed, and the autopsy revealed that Maria died by a single gunshot wound to the head. They did some other law enforcement stuff here in and around the scene. One of them went back to the police station to help start conducting interviews. Reporting Detective Fisher and Detective Tibbs were signed to the crime scene log, which was being kept by a law enforcement officer on the scene. It was determined that Detective Tibbs would stay on the scene, and the reporting detective would go back. That's what I told you there. Okay. Curt Andersen is the homeowner. Okay. And the Yoshi Andersen is the wife. That's interesting. For all of the people that were out there saying Curt Andersen had to be racist. He's got to be racist. He's got to be. Maybe so. Maybe I'm racist, because I don't feel like Yoshi Andersen is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. Maybe she is. I will have to say, I have heard it said that she is of Asian descent, but I don't know that to be factual. So don't take that anywhere. I don't know if that's true or not. But I just thought that was interesting for everyone talking about how racist this man needed to be or must be. No, back up. So back up. There's nothing in here that says there were no fingerprints on the door. There's nothing that says there were no fingerprints on the door. There is we will get to the paragraph that talks about dust, but we have not heard that. That is something that will come out in trial. So we'll have to wait on the fingerprints, because there's nothing in here. There is zero information in here that says there were no fingerprints. Okay. Let me see. I might be wrong, and if I am, I'll take it here. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. No. This is okay. Yes. I'm still correct. So we're skipping ahead. I don't want to do that, but I will do that here. Investigators confirmed that the front door was locked at the deadbolt and the handle, and there was no sign of forced entry, which we knew. Specifically, the exterior of the front door had a layer of dust that was undisturbed. Okay. There were no handprints or evidence of there were no handprints in the dust or any evidence of forceful contact with the structure of the door itself. Further, there was no evidence of scratches around the latch and or the door frame. Well, listen, there would not be evidence of scratches around the lock or latch or door frame because they weren't trying to break in. So they're not keying. They're talking about handprints in the dust. They are not talking about fingerprints. They are not talking about fingerprints. I guarantee you they dusted the door handle, at least the door handle, for fingerprints, and there is nothing in this that talks about evidentiary fingerprints. You cannot assume facts not in evidence. There is no handprints in the dust, in the layer of dust. We have not talked about fingerprints. There's nothing in this document about fingerprints. So we will have to wait on that. That will be talked about at some point. There is nothing on here about fingerprints at this point. And there's definitely a difference. Handprint in a layer of dust is, you can take a picture of that if it was there, or you can take a picture that it's not there, but that's not the same thing as a evidence taken fingerprint that they have dusted and lifted the print for. There's definitely different. So that's that. I don't any confirmation on if the homeowner nothing that I see about I've not seen anything about a Ring doorbell, which is unfortunate. Okay, so going on here, let's see here, coming down. Detective Tibbs spoke to David, who explained that he was employed by Ryan Homes, which was contracting a cleaning service that was scheduled to clean a model home further down in the neighborhood. And it's really strange. Later learned that David had called into Boone County Dispatch at 7:19 a.m. David advised Boone County Dispatch that Maria is part of the cleaning crew that was supposed to be going to blank and would like to offer an officer to contact him back. David stated that he was informed by the cleaning service supervisor that one of their employees was shot by a homeowner, but did not know how the supervisor learned of that information. That's extremely interesting. That's really weird. I'd like to know how they found that information out, because they were notified and got in touch with people really early on. So that's crazy. Okay. 19 talks about how they were connected with the cleaning crew and talks about that. The cleaning crew is AA Quality Cleaning, and they have crews that schedule a hire to perform an interior cleaning, window cleaning, as well as pressure washing to the model home. Representative then stated this particular address had completed construction on October 30th and was officially Ryan Homes' model home for the Windswept Farm subdivision. This representative stated at this point the project manager is responsible for contacting AA Quality Cleaning for all future cleaning jobs with the model homes, and that on November 5th, 2025, AA Quality Cleaning was to clean the windows at the address. Okay, so that's interesting. He very well could have called supervisor. It just doesn't say anywhere that he did. So that's I don't know. He very well could have. Knowing this information, Detective Tibbs applied for a search warrant. Okay, they have to do that anytime. So they applied for the search warrant, and they started with the scene processing. They did a walkthrough, as they would, take photographs. Began marking and documenting evidence on the outside of the house. starting with the Chrysler van parked out in the front. She took photos of the vehicle and marked a blue sheet with the deceased body underneath as marker A, the blood around it as marker 1. Then she marked the blood trail going from the van to the front door of the houses, markers B through H, with marker H as the bullet hole in the front door. At the porch was a large pool of blood, marker 2 with a pair of black shoes, marker 4, a tube of lip gloss, marker 6, a set of keys, keep those keys in your mind, and a black palm beanie, hat, marker 3, that was in the mulch by the porch. Once we all marked and photographed the corner, lifted the blue sheet that was over the deceased so we could take additional photos of the body. The deceased was a Hispanic female, dark hair, black coat, gray shirt, blue jeans, black belt, black socks. The female's face was bloody and she had a defect on the top right side of the head. The coroner placed the female in a body bag. While in the bag, I measured the height of the female. Now, this is interesting. I want you to listen to this. The female was approximately 4.9 feet tall, 59 inches. Okay. 4.9 feet tall, short. How tall are you, Kate? Oh, she's talking. I'll have to come back to her. The coroner then took possession of the female and transported her to the coroner's office. Took photos closer to the blood trail from the vehicle to the porch. After the photos were taken, they began to swab and collect evidence, starting with the marker 1. CSI placed the mask and other pairs of glove on top so that they're basically what they're doing is they're not contaminating any of the swabs that they're doing. Hey, Kate, how tall are you? 5'2", 5'0". Okay, 5. So Kate's just one bump taller. Kate's 5'0". This lady was approximately 4.9. So she was a shorty. So they take the swabs and they do so according to their protocol, which is done perfectly. If that doesn't help you with anything going on here. The information, various items were placed into bags. A pair of shoes was placed in the bag. The palm beanie was placed into bags. A set of keys on a Winter Jam lanyard labeled as item 5 was collected and placed into manila envelope and sealed. The keys were given to Captain Burcham and to release to Zors to be released to the owner of the van. A tube of lip gloss. Moving to marker H, which was the bullet hole in the door. CSI measured the bullet hole from the floor mat in front of the door up to the bullet hole. Now this is big because this was a topic of discussion and argument. Okay. Oh, he shot that bullet hole's way high up. He was purposely trying to shoot her in the head, killing her. Well, look, she was only 56 inches tall. She's only 4.9 feet tall. Let's find out where that bullet hole, how tall the bullet hole was, okay? Moving marker H, which is the bullet hole in the door, CSI measured the bullet hole from the floor mat in the front of the door up to the bullet hole, which was approximately 59.5 inches. From the bullet hole to the brick outer wall, which was approximately 33.5 inches. I don't know what that means, but if he could see her, you're going to have to give more words than, but if he could see her, you're going to have to explain more about that. If she had been 5'9", he would have got her in the heart. Absolutely. Look, contrary to popular belief, nobody's firing at your head or wanting to fire at the head. That's not a good target. You're going to miss that. People aim for center mass. All exterior evidence was collected and placed into evidence bags. After receiving the signed copy of the residential search warrant, they walked through the house again. As soon as they walked in the back door, there was an iPhone. She marked it, photographed it. On the inside of the floor, the bullet hole was approximately 4.75 feet. From the bullet hole to the wall was approximately 35 inches. It was observed that the front room did not have any furniture, which is kind of strange. It is kind of weird. Like, I know people who live like that, who have rooms that don't have furniture in it. I don't know why you would live like that. That's freaky. But these people seemed a little, just from the limited information, they seem a little goofy. But that doesn't mean anything. They apparently lived in this house for 4 years, which we're going to read here in a moment, or maybe it was already there. I don't know. No, we're going to read it here in a minute. But, I don't know what that means, that there wasn't furniture in the front room. It's just not furniture in the front room. Weird. Okay, here's 35. Investigators confirmed the front door was locked at the deadbolt and the handle, and there was no sign of forced entry, which we know because they weren't there to break in. They never tried to break in. They thought they were there to clean, so they're trying to figure out why their key's not working. What's going on here? Okay, remember the keys. Specifically, the exterior of the front door had a layer of dust that was undisturbed. Okay, yes. I could make noise using the door handle without having to touch the door. I don't understand why people don't know this. I could press on the door. I could jiggle the door handle. I could turn the door handle and make it sound like it's turning. I could push on the door using the handle and not affect any of the dust. You could paint. You could walk and paint my front door right now, paint it all white. And I could go and touch my doorknob and make a bunch of noise without touching any of the wet paint. So the fact that people are pointing to this door that it's undisturbed and saying, oh, well, nothing had to be happening. Look, whether you believe what I believe or you believe what you believe, they made noise because they awoke these people, and he shot her. And the only way that would have happened is if they somehow got his attention. So the fact that someone would be arguing over whether or not they somehow made noise or somehow manipulated the door is a stupid argument. Because I'm not saying they're trying to break in. I've never said they're trying to break in. They're not trying to break in. They're not criminals. They're hard workers trying to work for the day, trying to figure out why this damn door's not working. So we should be able to come to an agreement that they did something to the door. They were touching the door. They were pushing on the door. They put a key in the door that didn't fit. They were turning the doorknob. We'll find that out. It will come out, but I'm not saying they were trying to break in. So you're not going to see pry marks and all this craziness. You're not going to see a footprint on the door. You know what I mean? So that's that. Okay, this is one of those things, again, silver linings, where two things can be happening at one time, and both of them can be happening, and both of them can be right. The homeowner can see two objects outside through a window, and they're moving. I mean, I don't think that the husband and the wife on the outside of the door were just standing there like statues. They were probably like shifting a little bit, moving. She's looking. They're doing different stuff. They shift. Nobody just stands still. They're shifting in place. I shift in place a lot. She could be shifting. He could see them. She could be shifting, and he could still be firing out the door without a full understanding of what he's trying to hit. Now, I'm not saying he was firing willy-nilly. I'm saying he fired through the door trying to hit what he thought was someone trying to break into his house. That's the purpose of firing. If he told me that he fired through the door just willy-nilly, I would be like, oh, charge that guy, because that's reckless. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying, I was scared. I thought people were breaking in. So he fired the gun to stop that. So, yeah, those two things make sense. I have no problem. I mean, yeah, he saw them. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, going up the stairs, on the 8th step of the stair from the bottom was a spent cartridge casing. This was marked as evidence item number 8. The casing was photographed and collected. The casing head stamp read Sig Luger 9mm. The casing was placed into a manila envelope and sealed. So, listen to this. The casing was on the step. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because you could be on the floor, ground floor, and shoot, and depending on where you are, the casing could eject and land on the stairs. You could be upstairs and shoot, and it could land down on the stairs. Now, we will find out that he was on the top step here in a minute, which is wild. Okay, so just stand right there. Okay. Going up the stairs on the 8th step. Doop, doop, doop. Yes, it does, Admiral. Continuing up the stairs. Okay, this is interesting. CSI Menace went into the music room on the floor by the door. On the floor by the door was a tan vault by Pelican box that was slightly opened, and 2 locks with keys inside them on the floor by the box. The box was labeled as item 9. The box was photographed and then opened. Inside the box was a black Glock 48 semi-automatic handgun with the slide slid back to the rear and locked, with a magazine still in the gun. Also in the box was another magazine and a quick loader. At this point, CSI Menace started a gun liaison process. Once the process was complete, CSI Menace took up up close photos of the gun. It was a black Glock 48. Let's see, with a 10-round magazine that was loaded with 9 bullets. So that's important for people to understand. The gun was packed and boxed up and remained item number 9. All evidence items were packaged and collected and placed into the evidence bin and placed into the back of the department vehicle and to be transported back to the Whitestown Police Department. After all evidence was collected, reporting Detective Tibbs and Lieutenant Minton walked through the house. The scene was then released. Okay, now this is big. Curt was placed in an audio and video recorded interview room. The recorded interview with Curt was later uploaded. Let's see here. Curt, listen to this. Observed before entering into the interview. Reporting detective observed before entering into the interview room that Curt appeared to be very emotionally distraught. That makes sense. He would be. He did not wake up that day planning on shooting somebody. He certainly did not wake up that day thinking he was going to take a human life. Curt was very emotional and upset. Reporting detective read him Miranda rights. And you know what? Without an attorney in the room, he answered questions. I would not have done that. That would have probably caused them to arrest him, and that would have been fine. You can arrest me, and we can deal with that after the fact. I would not have, even being helpful, it's never a good thing to do that. He needed an attorney. He should have had an attorney before he talked. It is what it is. Curt stated he and his wife Yoshi had lived in the home for 4 years. Okay. Curt stated that he and Yoshi slept on a futon in the loft area on the second floor of the residence. The loft area has a window to the east of the room. Curt said that he sleeps on the side closest to the stairwell, which leads directly down to the first floor. Yoshi sleeps on the other side. Curt said that he and Yoshi are night owls and normally go to bed around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. most nights. Curt said they went to bed on the morning of this incident, November 5th, 2025, at approximately 2 to 3 a.m. or so. Curt stated that he woke up because he heard something but wasn't sure since he's still waking since he was still waking up what exactly he was hearing. Curt said he was thinking to himself, I've only been asleep like 3.5 hours. Curt then stood up and heard a commotion at the door. This is what he's telling you that he heard. Curt said at first it was subtle, but the commotion intensified, and he heard what appeared to be some type of keys or tools or instruments being used on the front door of the residence. Now, listen, I fully believe that it was just the keys, because what we now know, and he didn't at the time, and we have the fortune to Monday morning quarterback this is, they weren't trying to break in, so they were just using the keys. They didn't have tools or picks or whatever. It was just the keys. But he did say that he heard them being used on the door. I'm assuming the doorknob, but he says the door. Curt then said he reached over to grab his glasses, which were hanging on the charging cord plugged into the wall. Curt said that the commotion scared him because he realized this commotion was not his imagination. Someone was trying to get into the front door. Imagine what that would be like. Imagine you're literally sitting there listening, and you've actually come to the realization, look, I'm not out there. This is not a friend. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:40 in the morning. Someone's trying to get into my front door. Imagine the fear that would put you in. Okay. You would call 911. Absolutely. And I would too. Definitely. And I would just have to determine, there would have to be other determinant factors on whether or not I would take steps to, act or not act, but I have a lot of experience with handguns and rifles, and I guarantee you I would have acted differently than Curt. And maybe Curt would have acted differently on Tuesday than he did on Wednesday, or Thursday than he did on Wednesday. We don't know why he acted that way. Okay. Okay. Curt said he could see two individuals outside. So Curt said he went to the top of the stairwell, where he was at the landing of the stairwell looking down towards the front door. Okay. The stairwell of 4283 Maze Lane goes straight down the front door, and the front door can be seen from the top of the stairwell as well as to the side where a landing is located. Curt said he could see two individuals at the front door through the top and side windows of the front door. Curt said when he saw those individuals, he said, oh no, this is happening, and they are going to get in. Again, imagine that fear, thinking, oh shit, it's happening. They're going to get in. And if they get in, look, I'm just telling you, even if you're hungry and you're just looking for money, don't break into my house, because if you break in and I am assuming that you're going to get in and you're coming in, that's not going to end well here either. Curt said to himself, what am I going to do? It's not going away, and I have to do something now. Curt mentioned previously to reporting to the detective that he had thought about how to plan for something like someone breaking into his home and where to keep him and his wife safe. Some people have used this to try to say, oh, he's crazy. Look, police officers do this all the time. You run scenarios and you plan it. People in the military, it's just common sense. People who use guns, it's like planning for a tornado drill or a fire drill. We don't call the schools crazy because they tell you to. They tell your children that we're going to plan what happens in the event of a fire drill or a tornado drill or an active shooter drill. It's, I say, safe to think of shit like this. So that's what he had done. That doesn't make him crazy or paranoid. It could, but it doesn't make him crazy or paranoid. It's just something that he did. I do these same things. Curt said that he had watched videos before, and at that moment, he didn't want any part of this, and he didn't want to hurt anyone. Curt stated he then went to he then went into what he called his safe room, which is also his music room directly to the rear of the futon, which would have been the southeast corner of the room on the top floor. Curt stated that he went straight to the top of his music stand. In the corner of the room, he grabbed the keys to his Pelican case, which contained his Glock 48 9mm handgun. Curt said that he had purchased this handgun in September of this year when he traded in his SIG handgun he had since 2023. Curt said the SIG handgun was the first gun he had owned and that he bought it for protection of his home, but he had never carried it outside of his home. When asked during the interview, Curt said he has never shot either one of the handguns when he owned them, not even at a range. That's nuts. Look, don't own guns that you're not going to shoot. That's not good. If you own guns, you need to practice with them. Curt said the only time he shot a gun before was when he worked for the Navy. Curt said that he was a psychiatric RN. And so this dude's a nurse, an RN. He's a registered nurse. He was a psychiatric nurse in the Navy, and then he worked for the Navy for 20 plus years. Curt continued and stated he went to his Pelican case containing the Glock 48 handgun located on the floor right to the left of the door in the safe music room. As Curt was opening the case, which had two small padlocks on it, he said he was hearing the commotion at the front door of the residence get more and more aggressive. Curt stated that hearing this terrified him and they were going to beat him before he returned. In his mind, he thought, I'm doing this. They're going to get in before I get done doing what I'm doing. He thought that they were going to beat him before he returned to gain entry to his home and that his wife was still out in the loft. Curt explained that he had put the gun together by loading the magazine into the gun. The gun is stored unloaded. Curt said he loaded the magazine into the handgun and racked the slide, but it slipped and he had to re-rack the slide to chamber around because he's not practiced with this handgun. And he's nervous and he's shaking and he's emotional and he's screwing things up. After Curt loaded the weapon, he said he proceeded out of the safe room up towards the top of the stairwell. Curt stated he was moving toward the top of the stairwell. He told his wife, Yoshi, who was still in the loft area, to get into the safe room. Curt said that as he approached the top of the stairwell, he could hear and see that individuals outside were still trying to get into his home. Curt said he was positioned slightly off to the side of the stairwell at the top, and he could see the two individuals from the same windows of the front door. Curt described the individuals were thrusting at the front door to get in with what he described as getting more and more aggressive. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know what kind of thrusting these people would have been doing. I don't know why they would have been thrusting towards the door. That sounds weird. This sounds weird. I don't know what that would have been doing. I don't know how he could have made that determination. It is what it is. He thought they were thrusting and trying to get into the door. Curt referred to the moment the shot was fired as the incident. and not as firing a shot. Yoshi states in her interview with Detective Thomas and Detective McCloskey that the moment that Curt fired the shot toward the front door of the residence, Curt confirmed the front door did not open prior to the incident occurring. Reporting detective asked Curt how long it was after he retrieved his gun and was at the top of the stairs until the time he fired the round, and he said it was about 10 to 15 seconds. So he gets the gun, he goes to the top, he sees they're still trying to get in his mind, and he fires. Pop. Yeah, but Brad, when you say that he decided to do this, we're talking about things, we're talking about all of the, I mean, it's taking me a long time to read this. This is all happening in the matter of moments. I think from my background and my training and my experience, I fully believe that this, in my opinion, this would qualify as sudden heat, I guess, if that's what you're talking about, if that's what the prosecutor's office is talking about, because it's happening in just at the same time. It's all happening at the same time. Okay, let's see. Reporting detective okay. When asked, Curt said he didn't announce himself or say anything to the two individuals prior to firing the round. And as we know, in the state of Indiana, you do not have to do that. Maybe a lot of people would. It makes sense maybe to do so. Some people would say no. You don't let them know where you're at, because what if they've got a weapon and then they try to shoot you? So, there's lots of different thoughts there, but what's important is legally he does not have to. Okay, maybe he should have. We can all Monday morning quarterback this because we have that luxury. He did not. Lieutenant Minion stated to Curt, "I am assuming you fired one round toward the door," to which Curt nodded his head yes. When asked after he fired the round, "Did you hear anything or did the commotion stop?" Curt responded that he heard a man crying out and weeping. Curt said that he did not know what he was hearing and if maybe he just scared them or something. Curt stated after the incident happened, Curt's verbiage of the shot occurring, he told Yoshi to call 911. So that's important. Curt said that he stayed at the top of the stairs and Yoshi grabbed her phone, which was in the front southwest corner of the room 2, and dialed 911. Curt stated that Yoshi came toward him and heard the dispatcher asking for the address, and Yoshi handed him the phone. Curt told the dispatcher his address and said, "Please come, please come, please come. They're trying to get in." Curt said he was holding the firearm in his right hand and the phone in his left hand. He said he did not know what to do with the gun. Curt was asked about how long it was from the time that he was awakened by the sound of the door until the shot was fired, and he replied it was quick, but it wasn't sure exactly how long. During the interview, Curt drew the layout of the stairwell and the front door. While on the phone with 911, dispatcher Curt stated the dispatcher told him the police had arrived. Curt advised that while she told him that he told dispatchers he still couldn't see the police at this time, and said he was still scared of the individuals on the porch. While on the phone with 911, Curt said the dispatcher told him that he needed to put the gun down, so Curt put it back on the spongy stuff on the Pelican case, which that's there to protect the gun. Curt said he wouldn't come downstairs because he still saw the individuals outside and he was still afraid they might come in. Curt said he saw a male on the phone and didn't know who he might be calling. This would have been the husband calling 911. Curt said that the dispatcher told him there were multiple officers on scene. Curt said he went to the southwest corner of the second floor, peeked through the window, and this is when he saw an officer outside with his gun drawn. He looked further out and saw police officers' presence. Curt said the dispatcher and said that he and his wife needed to come down the stairs with your hands up. Curt told the dispatcher that he was still scared of the individuals on the porch and that he wanted them off the porch to feel safe to come down. After some time, Curt said he and his wife started to come down the stairs. Per the instructions from the dispatcher, Curt said he and his wife proceeded down the stairs with their hands up. As they got to the bottom of the stairs, Curt said he saw the officer running across the street in the direction of the back of the house and a large police presence, so he felt more comfortable and knew they were going to be okay. Again, this doesn't sound like somebody that's just like criminal. He's thinking that he's okay because the police are here. Curt said he told dispatchers they were coming back of the house, and Curt put the phone down on the kitchen table. Curt said he exited the house through the back sliding per instructions, and that's when he and Yoshi were detained by law enforcement officers. Curt told detectives that from the time he awoke to the noise to the incident occurring was over a minute. So about a minute in time from when he first heard the house breaking in to what he thought was the time that he shot. Okay. After gathering the facts from Curt, he was told the outcome of his fired round. He was basically told that the person he shot was a female and part of a cleaning crew with her husband who had mistakenly went to the wrong address. Curt became upset and immediately put his head down on the table. After some time, Curt said he didn't mean for anything to happen to anybody. The detective asked Curt if he gave consent to search his phone. He did. He did all of that. Soon after the interview, Curt was transported back to his home. There, at Curt's request, he reenacted the events of the morning, and the video was recorded by the lieutenant. Okay, his wife's interview goes a lot quicker. She sits down. She says that they went to sleep about 2 a.m. Andersen explained that they were awakened by the sound of someone trying to open the front door, the constant turning of a lock, a doorknob. Andersen said that she was half awake, but when she heard the turning of the doorknob, she wondered what her husband was doing. She said, "What's going on? Oh, shit, break in." Miss Andersen stated that Curt began to panic. Andersen stated that they slept on a mattress on top of in a loft upstairs. Mrs. Andersen stated that Curt instructed her to enter his bedroom because the door has a lock. Miss Andersen stated that Curt grabbed a box labeled Yeti, opened it, and retrieved his handgun. Miss Andersen stated that Curt exited the bedroom and that she followed. She stated that from the top of the stairs, she could not see outside the front door window. Andersen explained that she was unsure if Curt could see out the front door window or not, apparently. Miss Andersen stated that Curt instructed her to return to the bedroom. She stated that Curt was at the top of the stairs and he shot. She stated that she was unsure exactly where Curt shot, but she thinks he shot at the location of where the constant turning of the locked doorknob was. She stated that she began to hear weeping from the front door of the residence, and that she instructed to call 911. Miss Andersen stated that she returned to the phone to Curt's bedroom where he had retreated. When asked, she said there were no curtains on the first floor of their residence. Miss Andersen added the house's exterior lights. The exterior lights were on, along with the front and back porch lights. So the front of the house was lit up, but their room was dark. Okay. However, there were no lights on within the residence. She stated that neither she nor her husband had ever gone to the front door. She explained that she attempted to, but he stopped her because he was unsure if the people outside had a gun. She stated that neither she nor her husband had ever made any loud commands. She informed the police that her husband told her he was talking to a neighbor, then informed us that her husband told her that he was talking to a neighbor whom she identified as blank, and that Curt told him that if someone tried to break in, they would shoot a gun. Miss Andersen stated that she did not hear her husband say that to the neighbor, to blank, but when she asked what they had talked about, that's what Curt told her. Miss Andersen stated that she was unsure what time she first heard the doorknob. Andersen stated that it could have taken place between 6:30 and 7. When asked, Mrs. Andersen stated that Curt never told her how many people were trying to get into the residence or what they looked like. She explained that Curt told her not to go up the stairs because there's a front door window next to the actual door, and Curt did not want the people outside to see her. She clarified that Curt shot his gun from the top stair and that he never went downstairs. When she stated that Curt shot the gun first, then told her to call 911. She stated that she did not know that Curt shot a person, but she thought that he had only shot the front door. She stated the only voices she heard after were Curt shot his firearm. She could hear a man's voice weeping. She stated that Curt never attempted to go down the stairs. She added that she never heard the doorbell. She stated that she could hear someone fiddling with a doorknob keyhole as if someone was trying to insert keys. She stated that she thinks she heard a bang sound, but no knocking. Okay, that's the end of her interview. Now, here's the interview with the victim's husband. Okay. So he had a translator. Let's see here. So they're part of a cleaning crew. He stated that while trying to open the door, he heard a shot and was unsure which direction it came from. So listen, he stated they received the address from their boss, and once they arrived at the home, they attempted to unlock the door with the keys their boss had given them. So he's saying that they did try to unlock the door. Now, we know that's not breaking and entering, but that is lining up with what Curt said, that they were trying to unlock the door. Okay. He looked through the window to see if there was anyone inside, but he couldn't. He then turned his attention to his wife, trying to secure her and render aid. They got his phone. He confirmed that the orders his boss sent the phone were still there, and he had received them yesterday evening. He further explained that it was just a text message, not an email or paper document. He stated that he had the keys from his boss and that it was a common practice to obtain them in advance. He added sometimes they will be given the alarm code if needed to gain access. When asked, he stated that he had never been to the residence before. Today was his first day. When asked, he stated that Maria was the one with the keys trying to gain access to the residence. He stated that he was trying to gain access to the home for approximately 30 seconds to 1 minute using different keys they had. When asked, he stated that he never heard any voices from inside the residence. He stated that he did not hear any yelling or movement, just the one shot. He stated that he did not use force of any kind to enter the residence, which we know, and it wouldn't make sense for them to. He added they did not bang or knock on the door. He stated that he never received a text message informing him that he was at the wrong residence. Say they never called his boss to inform him that the keys were given that didn't work. He explained that the only time that he was able to talk to his boss was after the police arrived on the scene, and explained all that had happened. Stated the homeowner never exited or opened the front door where he and his wife were. He explained that sometimes the homes they clean have furniture and sometimes they do not. He explained that some of the homes they clean are spec homes with furniture. Stated that he observed furniture in this residence. Yep, that's exactly right, Kate. That's absolutely correct. You're 100% right. He made it clear that they never managed to open the front door, stated that his wife was the one with the keys and that he never tried to open the door because she had been shot. When asked, he stated that Maria was shot in the head. He explained that the bullet entered her head around the temple and exited out the back. He stated that once Maria was shot, he stayed on the front porch with her, holding her until police arrived. He did not hear sounds of voices from inside the house after his wife was shot. Stated that he only heard one shot, nothing else. He stated that this took place around 6:50 a.m. He stated that on his phone there was a 911 call, and that from the time they arrived until he called 911 was approximately 2 minutes. He did not yell out or say anything to the people inside the residence before or after the shot. He explained that he was speaking to his wife after she was shot and that he was crying. There were no vehicles in the driveway nor on the street in front of the residence. There were no lights on inside the residence. He explained that the residence that they were going to was a model house, but the GPS kept sending him to 4283 Maisie Lane. To his understanding, no one should have been living at or inside the address because his understanding was it was a model home. When asked, he stated that he did not notice that the numbers attached to the house were different from the one that his boss sent. He explained in greater detail that his boss sends him a link and GPS just takes them to the residence. He stated that they circled the home a few times, but the GPS kept taking them back to 4283 Maisie Lane. He mentioned that in the past, when the keys wouldn't work, they would just call his boss and inform him, but he didn't have an opportunity to do so today. He stated that he lives at blank. Okay. Their forensic unit took the phone. They found the text message that was sent the night before. All that's pretty normal stuff. 911 calls were obtained from the Boone County Communications Center from this incident. There were 2 911 calls made. Curt made a 911 call reporting a possible home invasion at his residence, which was called in after the shot was fired. The second 911 call was made by the husband, who was reporting that Maria had been shot. The husband did not speak any English. Both 911 calls came into the Boone County Communications Center at approximately 6:50 a.m. on 11/5/25. These recordings were uploaded into evidence. Based on the above facts, Curtis Andersen fired one shot through a closed, locked door from the top of his stairs, knowing 2 individuals were on the other side of the door, fatally striking Maria Velazquez. And then he dates and times all of that. Here is the one single solitary count. The undersigned says on or about November 5th, 2025 in Boone County, state of Indiana, Curt Andersen did knowingly kill another human being, to wit, Maria Florinda Rosie O. Perez del Vasquez, while acting under sudden heat, contrary to the form of the statute in such cases made and provided by Indiana Code 354213A, and against the peace and dignity of the state of Indiana. I affirm under the penalties of perjury that the foregoing representations are true to the best of my knowledge and belief, and that it's Kent Eastwood and then all of these people. So there's that. So that is the rundown of the sheet, the probable cause sheet. If you want to get that sheet, if you want to look through that, you want to look through in more further detail, you can find that on my Facebook page. You can find that on the Political Spotlight Facebook page, and you can find that on Bilbrey Live Twitter. I'm going to say, listen, this is a difficult case. Not all cases are wham bam, thank you ma'am, open and shut, simple cases. This is, real life. There are very complex situations. This is not just a a Batman, comic book. There are ups and downs and ins and outs and gray, a lot of gray places. It's not just black and white. And I don't think this man should have been charged. I think it was a terrible accident, a terrible situation. I think it's going to mess him up for years to come. I think it's going to mess up the victim's husband, Maria's husband, her kids. I think that all kinds of people are going to be affected horribly from this. It's sad. It's bad. I don't see how charging this man does anything to help anything other than it's going to give some a check or feather in their cap, except they're mad that he wasn't charged more. They want bigger, better, worse, scarier charges. They don't want just this. They want more. So it's like never satisfied, never satisfied. K Blue Robinson. And I completely understand that. And I fully appreciate that. I respect your opinion 100%. And I appreciate you being able to be here and tell me your opinion and still being able to listen to mine. I'm not just basing this on this information. I'm basing it on this information and a lifetime of a back lot of training and experience as a police officer, as a patrolman, as a detective, as an investigator in the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office. I have training and experience in this. And so it's not just like I'm coming at this like just a regular citizen who, has worked, as a bus driver or something. I not like there's anything wrong with bus drivers, but I have a little bit more, a little bit more experience with what's going on here. And I'm just saying, I'm basing this. There's a lot of factors I'm basing this on. I fully believe that, I fully believe that I wanted wait a minute, I'm seeing here. You wanted more for civic duty, Kimbrell. I don't know what that means. I wanted more for civic duty. Explain to me what that means. But I fully believe that this guy will be cleared. I don't believe that he will be found guilty, and I fully believe that his attorney will defend him using law, and I feel like he will be vindicated from the criminal justice portion of this. I feel like if this would have happened last year or 2 years ago, it might be different. I strongly believe that the prosecutor charged him the way that he did with something because he knows he's facing a primary, or not necessarily a primary election. He's facing an election next year. I don't know if he's going to be challenged. I don't know if he's going to have a Republican challenger, Democrat challenger. I have no clue. But I know that does sometimes play a factor, and it shouldn't. And that sucks. No, I'm looking at this from the. I'm see. That's the thing is I have not only experience in the police world, but I also have a lot of experience in the prosecutor's world. I worked for a number of years as an investigator in the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office, and worked in that field. And I strongly believe that this is a case in Delaware County that would not have been filed. What's ridiculous? If that's the case, why wouldn't he be charged with reckless homicide? Listen, the reckless homicide, voluntary, involuntary, reckless homicide in my mind is a weaker case. Reckless homicide is something that you could be, it's like accident. Should be the best case scenario for the people wanting this guy to be charged something without being charged with murder. So you have murder and then voluntary manslaughter. Involuntary manslaughter and reckless homicide are lesser offenses. So because he feels pressured by the nutbags that are out here saying that this is race and that he has to do something, and if he doesn't, they're going to protest him every day, and they're going to get him, and we need, so that's why he charged in this way, so he can be like, look, I did what you guys wanted. It's the highest charge he thinks that he could prosecute to make the plebes happy. So, as stated, I don't think I played this for you. The prosecutor's office today said this will be the last update from the prosecutor. There will not be any further information from the prosecutor's office, because now that this has been charged, it's in front of a court. He is not permitted to speak on this matter, and so we now are in the hurry up and wait phase. And I would like this to be resolved by the spring, but it won't be. This will play out for the next 6 months, next year and a half. It could drag on for some time. I hope they get it quick, but it's going to play out like it does. And we will be here for all of it. As soon as anything comes out, we will bring it to you. This is probably one that I will have to go down and attend. I'll probably have to attend the court hearing because I feel strongly about this case. Let's see here. He said it wasn't a hard decision. Sure. That he would say that. And he did say that. Because he has an election coming up next year, and the people that have been screaming, justice, you've got to do something, they've been very loud. Oh, yeah. Yes. If I will tell you, so let me back up here and real quick and talk about the deal with Guy Relford. The only thing Guy Relford being on the case does is let me believe strongly that I'm right in my opinion. If this guy didn't know, if Curt Andersen didn't know or hadn't been known to hire, didn't know Guy Relford, didn't know how to hire him or whatever, I don't know. I don't even know how that came about. But if he was sitting here without an attorney, if he said, hey, look, I'm indigent and I need a public defender, this has nothing to do with my situation, my friendship, my belief in Guy Relford. I'm going to tell you why I believe the way I believe. I believe everything that I'm telling you now because I have been a police officer and because I've been an investigator in the prosecutor's office. why I believe the way I believe now is my training and experience from the police department and prosecutor's office. That's the reason I'm making the statements about this that I'm making. Yeah, I saw the comments. I don't know what specifically that has to do with anything specifically. I don't know. Let me go down here and take a look real quick again and see what is it. I saw it. I have to establish that that's a reasonable belief under what's called the totality of the circumstances. So was there a weapon involved? Did the person attempt to hurt me? Did the person communicate to me and intend to hurt me? Relford said. So this is a wonderful, wonderful little snippet of a conversation. Shit like this means nothing to me. I want to see the entire text. And you have to understand, while you can a lot of times take cases and lay them next to other cases and say, hey, this is similar to this, there's a lot of cases that you have to take at face value as the case presents itself. And so what happens specifically in this case might be different than that case, but I would like to see where this came from. So if you can send me the full link. But what he's saying here specifically has no, in my opinion, this is my opinion, has no bearing on what happened with Mr. Curt Andersen. But again, yeah, take Relford out of this. That's gotten Relford being involved is not what has created my belief in this case. Why I believe the way I believe is because I'm a Second Amendment advocate. I'm a gun lover, a gun aficionado, a gun collector. I have taught people how to shoot. I've used guns. I collect guns. I love guns. And because of my time as a law enforcement officer, both as a police officer, as a patrolman, investigator, and an investigator in the prosecutor's office. Let me see here really quickly where this came from. Okay. This is reference 2 killed in homicide. Police are investigating as justifiable. Okay. Let me look real quick. Being investigated as a justifiable homicide around 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. Okay, let's see here. There's 2 men killed. Third victim was transported to a nearby hospital. Currently investigating the case as justifiable homicide, which is a homicide where someone is acting in self-defense. They had seen a significant increase in justifiable homicides in 2023. Attorney Guy Relford is an expert on self-defense law. Homicide is just an intentional killing of a human being, which we've talked about. Whether it's legitimately in self-defense, explained Relford, it's a crime that is determined by the law of self-defense. Relford explained that self-defense cases are not as simple as one might think. It's not easy. It's not an easy defense to make at all because there are 2 different levels of different requirements for the defense. Shared Relford. Relford has represented numerous self-defense cases in court. He explained that the location of the self-defense can have a big impact on the case. We have a set of rules at home under the Castle Doctrine that I say I can use reasonable force, said Relford. That said, Relford explained that the rules change in public settings. I can't just say, oh, I thought he was going to kill me, so I shot him, explained Relford. That's in a public place. He shared there are numerous complexities while investigating a self-defense shooting that occurred in public. I have to establish that that's a reasonable belief under what I called it. Okay, so ding, 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 ding. This that you sent me has no bearing in whatsoever on the situation with Curt Andersen, because what he's laying out here, I have to establish that's reasonable belief under what's called the totality of the circumstances. So there's a weapon involved, question mark. Did the person attempt to hurt me? Question mark. Did the person communicate to me the intent to hurt me? Question mark. He's talking about a justifiable homicide that occurs in public. So you've got to be really careful. And I mean this to everyone, has to be very careful. You cannot just take bits and pieces from this situation and apply it here because it looks cool and it makes you feel like, well, that helps my case. You have to apply it for what it is. If this was involving his thoughts in another home situation, then it might apply. What he's laying out here is his thoughts in public. So, all right. Well, it was only uncalled. I'll put it to you this. For everybody that feels that what Curt did, that was totally uncalled for, I pray and I hope and I pray you are never in a situation in which you are in fear of your life. I have been in situations where I have been, listen, I'm going to tell you, I have been in situations where I had the gun in my hand, I was breathing, and I was pulling back on, for everyone that knows a Glock, there's a little bit of play in the trigger. You've got that dumb little foot in there, the safety foot in the trigger, and you're squeezing on it, There have been a couple instances where I was pulling back on a trigger, and had the gun went off, I would have expected it. I was expecting it too, but for whatever reason, thank God above, that didn't happen, and the person put their weapon down, and we were able to then resolve it in a different way. And I'm very, very thankful for that. But had that went off, I would have been justified. So that's that. Okay. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank you for being here. This has been a long show, but we had a lot to get through. We will follow this case from front to back and keep you guys posted. And this will be a place where you can come and listen to what's going on, and we'll keep you posted here. So you guys take care. We will be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday. We'll get back on the political train here a little bit and see what's going on tomorrow. Until then, you guys have a wonderful evening. God bless each and every one of you. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and we will see you tomorrow night. Peace.